Hey yo, welcome back. Secret House. Secret House Against the World, Secret House Against album reviews, Tokyo-based hip-hop art and culture stuff. Please consider hitting a like, subscribe, comment, and all these things. Today we are here, Jed and I, to discuss McKinley Dixon, new album called Beloved, Paradise, Jazz. 10 songs, 28 minutes. The album is out on City Slang, which I know from releasing more of your IDM type artists,
Yes.
Afterclang, Sunlux, Gold Panda, Caribou. He was Manitoba before, and even Marcus Archer of is it No Twist or Not Twist?
I'm not sure.
I've always called it the Not Twist because I feel like somebody told me it was not
thought it
No
was
Twist. Yeah, but I mean Not Twist sounds interesting. But yeah, they're really dope. Kind of indie label that puts out a lot of incredibly talented artists, including Mr. Dixon himself. And congratulations. I'd like to congratulate you if you come in here for this, just finding out about him, because I think that this is like an album that a lot of people would feel is like an album of the year type of contender.
Oh yeah.
I do think that DJ L. Spade would really
Spade would
enjoy
have
this.
loved this record. I hope if you're watching this, Spade, definitely peep this one.
Yeah, I think this will end up on a lot of album of the year joints for people. So a little bit about McKinley Dixon. He is I believe, Richmond, Virginia-based MC, art, poet type of cat.
Yep.
This is his fourth full-length project, which includes Who Taught You to Hate Yourself? Dope title. For My Mama and Anyone That Looked Like Her, also fire title. The album is said to be inspired by the great works of Toni Morrison.
There in the title.
Yeah, right there in the title. Like the title is 3 of her books. Have you read any of those? Because I've only read Beloved.
Yes. Track 1 is is literally just a paragraph lifted from Jazz.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've read Song of Solomon, Tarberry Flaws, The Bluest Eye.
Yeah.
That's the other one. Yeah. But yeah, I recommend anybody who's rocking with Toni Morrison like that, and I especially I like his adoration for Toni Morrison, especially as a young black male artist. It's like we need more people championing some of the great women in the black radical tradition.
For sure.
But yeah, how I like, before we really get into the deep, our thoughts on the album, we always like to discuss how we know the artist, if we do at all. So for me, I'm relatively new to his work. This is the first project that I listened to. I believe I know that my first introduction to him as an artist was on the Soul Glow album last year. He was on Spiritual Level of Gang Shit, which is kind of an outlier on that album. One of the less kind of specifically
punk.
Yeah, aggressively punk songs. And that was one of my favorite songs of the year too. You remember, I fucking love that shit. When motherfuckers start singing or yelling spiritual level of gang shit, I'm like, I'm right there with you. But that was my first time hearing him as an artist, and even though I loved it, I didn't pursue his music on that. Because who else is on that? Is that Logi that's also on that?
I don't remember.
It's somebody dope like that.
I wasn't as taken with that album as everybody else was.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know.
You mean that song?
The Soul Glow, the album specifically.
Okay, you didn't? Okay.
I liked it. I liked it plenty, but I didn't really go back and listen to it much after we talked about it.
I did like it a lot. I know. Maybe I was the only one that really loved it. Because I don't think Spade liked it.
Spade didn't like it. No.
Spade said some shit like, "Go listen to Blink 182
Dropout Kings." Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely not. But shout out to Spade. So how are you familiar with McKinley Dixon?
Probably the same. I don't know. That's just a name that's just existed in the hip hop consciousness for a few years now, and I want to say fuck Arrested Development for building a cynicism in me that made me not listen to McKinley Dixon, because when I saw these album titles, I was like, oh, he's one of these guys. You know what I mean when I say one of these guys?
Okay, go for it. Go off.
So the reason I say fuck Arrested Development is because, fucking, it was the second album, where it's very spiritual black power, black woman is power and all this stuff, but also it's there's a track on there where it's you had an abortion, that's a bad just very judgmental
black
kind of pro-black, but to the extent that
It's more like a leaning towards a respectability
politics and a
neoliberal
display of like your own like moral superior or mental superiority. And for some reason, just when I see that whole aesthetic, the cover as well of songs for my mother and people who look like her, as I've gotten that title wrong, my apologies. I think I was just like, yeah, this isn't for me.
Sure.
And I'm upset that level of cynicism has like been invoked in me, because this album fucking rocks.
Well, you know, to kind of speak on that, you know, that is actually something that's permeated the black community for a long time. This level of neoliberal, post-civil rights movement politics of, you know, integrating, you know, using your merit to level up and pull your pants up, and you can do better in society if you were just try harder. And I mean, it's in a lot of films. It's packed into a lot of the classic black films. It is kind of an underlying theme that is it even in Boys in the Hood. Yeah. And I get that, but I you know, with that said, I'm glad that you continue to give it a chance, because this album is not that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm only bringing this up because I want to make it clear that like that's me not looking past my own like preconceived notions of what an artist can do and what an artist can be like. And it does seem like this album is a coming out party of sorts for McKinley Dixon, who I suspect is going to be a name that we see a lot more coming up in the future as a result of this record. Yeah.
You know, I'm not a feminist, right? Like, of course, I've read a lot of the great black women thinkers, and I still pay attention to lots of the modern ones who are out there spreading, you know, leftist theory, so to speak. But off rip, you know, even though I'm not like the biggest Toni Morrison fan, like I have read her work just out of, you know, I feel it's like one of those things you need to do. It's like if you're part of this type of experience, you've got to know it a little bit. And I do love that McKinley Dixon has this huge adoration for her. Even in one of the interviews I read, he said like she's the illest like rapper. You know what I mean? Right. And it's true. She's a tremendous writer. She's it's beautiful the way she's able to kind of distill all of these experiences into her works. You know, but outside of that, you know, a lot of hip hop, and especially a lot of the kind of like terminally online males are often entranced with like this neo-masculinist, inherently anti-feminist misogyny online tropes. Absolutely. That is very much like, you know, even in a rap community, it's like so much of the music is like, yeah, bitches, bounce your ass, you know, like we're doing drugs, you guys are doing, you know, being hoes or whatever. And this album, to have somebody come and just really focus on like the excellence of a black woman, it's an outlier in hip hop, and especially one that comes with a talent level as high as McKinley Dixon's. And that's what I like. When I saw it, I was like, oh, that's an interesting album title. And then it's like slowly started dawning on me, like, oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah. And I did kind of have that reflex, the same as you. Was like, here we go. It's not going to have much substance, but it's going to have the veneer of substance.
And that is definitely a problem in hip hop. This kind of veneer or the image of being revolutionary, pro-black, without a politic attached to it, or rather the politic just being, you know, neoliberalism. Right.
Neoliberal race sociopolitics, but no economic politics, right? But you know, I think one of the things that before we, I guess we're already into that.
Yeah, we're into that already.
Yeah. Like McKinley Dixon, his rap style is not one that is your conventional kind of bar style raps, where by bar style I mean like he's not a punchline rapper. No. He's also not a very not simple in his delivery like you might think of some of the more traditional southern style MCs. He's very I feel like he used a lot of poetic devices, but he's also kind of, there's this prose and this kind of ebb and flow and how he lets a line breathe or approaches it with a different cadence on these incredibly musical, that's the wrong term, but there's a lot of live instrumentation sounding musicality on this, and he's just really good at it. I don't think that I've been able to unpack many of the themes of the album just yet, because it does feel like when you listen to it and there's all this flourishing musical I can't speak for shit today, this flourishing kind of like musicality, it's a bit overwhelming on how much you're processing as it happens.
Yes.
The beat switches, the concept coupled with all of these musical changes, and it's dope.
With all the live instrumentation, I think the inevitable point of comparison that you're going to see in any kind of think piece and review on this is the Roots. And I don't know if this album exercises the level of restraint or sophistication that you would get from like a really good Roots record, but at the same time, like, I can absolutely see this being performed, on a big stage with a lot of musicians on stage and like an extreme, and this, black excellence in quotation marks, but in the truest sense of the term, unironically, this album is very beautiful, and there's like a grandeur to it. There's
It really the Toni Morrison comparison is great because it really does kind of exemplify like the confluence of different experiences that are kind of inherently black in the American experience, from it being so jazzy in the first place, and for Toni Morrison's wonderful prose, he is very poetic, and I think that those two things together make this album just black as fuck. And the Roots are obviously black as fuck, but their experiences are their approach is different. Like, this also kind of reminds me of an Avondale Bowling Club.
Absolutely.
But there's also, this album is, did I say it's 10 songs, 28 minutes, right? Usually when you have a jazz album, it's like, there's like a surprise at the end and the music builds for 2 minutes before the second verse comes. There's a really unique kind of brevity to a lot of these tracks too.
It's actually quite poppy in its approach to the structure, both in terms of the sequencing of the album and the way that the individual songs are crafted. There's like a pop sensibility to it.
Run, Run, Run is, like, that could be huge. That's like a huge song. Run, 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 as well as Beloved Paradise Jazz, the title track. I was playing this in the house, and it's like my daughter, I look at my daughter and she's breaking in the living room to it. It's like these songs are, they have the kind of breakout appeal, but I don't know if they would ever break out just because the inherent concepts of them. I don't know if we allow black men to kind of do that. Or black music in general kind of do that.
You have to wait until Kendrick Lamar dies
before
we can have another one of these.
It feels like it's a little bit too smart for the mainstream culture to kind of like grasp onto it.
But it is also extremely palatable.
Yeah.
So maybe.
I just, I was fucking surprised because, like, I had heard the name, but I didn't dive into it. This album feels incredibly polished. I don't know who handled the production on this, but it's fucking clean.
Very clean.
Like, and it's not just like, yo, we got a live band to play some hip hop beats. There are flourishes and crescendos and breakdowns and electronic sounds that come into play, and I don't know, like the drums get trappy and then it gets jazzy. It's so much going on this album. Absolutely. It is a very dense listen, and I think that you can kind of pull out so many different types of things in the lyrics, because he is not just rapping about rap, and he's not even on the nose being like, black women are great. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's talking about a wealth of, it is an incredibly poignant and potent confluence of a black man's experience and a distillation of the spectrum of black sorrow, joy, growth, and all of these kind of wonderful things that you would kind of expect to get out of a Toni Morrison work. It's really, really, it's good. I'm not saying it's one of my favorite albums of the year, but I see this as like a really powerful, dope album that people should fucking know about this one. This is like that Nappy Nina shit. It's like people should know about this one, and I'm glad that we're here to review it. But there's some really dope shit like Mezzanine Trippin' featuring Taylor Banks and Alfred. The beat is hard as fuck. The
12.
drums are a combination of like odd bells, snares,
It's kind
like
of abrasive.
shakers.
It's not nearly as pretty as the rest of the album.
It's different and weird, and even like if all the production was that kind of crunchy and shit, there's still like a very nice musicality with this kind of discordant type of instruments. It's like, what did you use to make this shit? Like a Pyrex glass, you know what I mean? Like it's really good. Also, it's just like fuck 12 for
Fuck
like
12.
a minute.
Yeah.
And
just over and over again.
I want to go ahead and say boycott cop culture. Disabuse yourself from watching cop television shows. On all of these shows, there's only 3 people: the fucking cops, the criminals, and the victim. So who do you identify with? Fuck 12. Fuck the police. Run, run, run. Man, the piano, it's so vibrant, it's colorful, and wonderful. And the things he's talking about that on that song, Run, 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 too, it's like he's running from the guns. Who thought the hardest part would be for me to stay down? And that's just like part of the kind of chorus, refrain, and bridge or whatever. And it's just like to stay down, like be down, but also have to stay down from the gunfire. I don't know if that's intention, but that's the beautiful thing about poetry.
That whole theming as well. I don't think it's like a huge leap. We've definitely seen it before where it's, kids playing soldiers, cowboys and Indians running around, bang, bang, bang. And then also just, this very horrifying image of what we're seeing a lot in America today of children, having to deal with gunfire in their lives. It's maybe not like a completely original poetic conceit, but it's executed so well. And it's like a deeply affecting track, and this kind of theme that runs through the whole thing is kind of horrifying. But
it's interesting. There's like a dichotomy between like how fun the song sounds versus the actual content. The kind of dichotomy between like disavowing gun violence and also embracing it to a sense, and the kind of consequences of those things on the person and the community. And it gets deep. It gets and it's not deep like, bro, this is deep. It's like time to do, snap applauses at the fucking poetry reading, but it is very poetic in a palatable, a very palatable way. And I feel like I do have some notes here. It's like the importance of poetry, right? And rap has often been considered very adjacent to poetry, right?
Yes.
I don't think that really explains all of the phenomenon of rapping, but the importance of poetry is that it offsets material reality by imposing a larger essential truth about subjective experiences. It allows us to kind of be here in the now and beyond it simultaneously. And it's just, when you have an artist like this, it is just a really kind of beautiful and powerful expression of those interlocking modalities of the DAO. And on this album, like that song Run Run Run, these two things that you can write down facts about, but he puts it together in this way that's just really interesting. Like, wow, like everybody's thought of that shit. There's been movies, documentaries, there's fucking statistics, it's all over the place, but the way he puts it together is just really something else. Live from the kitchen table with, how do you pronounce this dude's name? Guys Guevara?
I actually don't. Guevara, obviously, like
Guevara,
Jay, but
right. But he's supposedly, I haven't listened to much of his music, but he's supposedly a black leftist. He's got an album called Black Bolshevik.
Okay.
And people have pointed him towards me because they know we're leftists here, and they say he does some really good work. I'm looking forward to reviewing his album. But Live from the Kitchen Table with him, it's fucking, both of them go the fuck off. It is fucking good.
The musicianship on this record is so kind of all-consuming that it's difficult to forget that there's some really, really good rapping on here.
Celine Hayes. The story so far, the production is crazy. Then the beat switch happened, and then Celine Hayes comes in, and I'm like, who the fuck is this? Who is this? Like, I need to find out who that is, because she is so dope on that track. It is really, really nice. Another one, Tyler Forever, which is like, this hard as fuck kind of trappy drums, but with the live musicality still.
I believe this was the lead single.
It was? Okay. Yeah, but it fades out to like this less trappy kind of sound for a really beautiful convo with his dead homie kind of, you know what I mean? And he's just like reminiscing about the shit, and it's really fucking powerful. I don't know if you've got any dead homies from gun violence, but I've got at least 2 or 3 myself. And to think back about it, it's like he says some really beautiful things about it in a way. Like he says, y'all become killers all of a sudden when you find dusty loops. And that's like separate from it. But yo, like the way that we were just talking about this on the Kel Smith review, it's like, why are you guys all gangsters? Like, where did you get all these ops from? You're a movie star. Like, I don't get it, but I get it.
Yeah.
And one of the parts he says like, it's murder music for niggas who ain't been murdered. I'm sure if he was here right now, he'd say that's just unheard of. And then he talks about they laugh about it and how, you know, whatever. And this is how you parallel the truth that comes from writing stories to the tales of triumph, flight, and even oftentimes glory. Because I know all them niggas mentioning all them things, but I'm going to close my eyes for a bit. Can you just read it for me? And I'm not doing any justice to the sounds that were behind him when he said this, the kind of use of that pause to end it. But man, he is surprisingly talented. Surprisingly talented. It's just a good fucking album, man. I don't have many more notes about any of the songs specifically, but it's good.
All I can, the only real critique I have to offer is I actually wish it was a bit longer. You know, in terms of the songcraft and the musicianship and everything going on, you know, it ends on like a nice kind of crescendo. It's very beautiful from start to finish. But when it ended, I was kind of just like, oh, okay. I thought maybe like we'd get another 10 minutes out of this, you know, another couple tracks or something.
I was surprised by how like you said, the songs are very kind of like they're pop enough that it's just like, oh, here's 2.5 minutes. Got it. Everything happens. Great and wonderful. But we're not going to spend 5 minutes on this one.
Right. Which, given how live sounding it is, and the very clear jazz influence, I guess maybe I'm just kind of attuned a certain way to be like, okay, well, let's let this ride a little bit. Let the band play. I don't know if it's a band or if it's
get his shit off for a minute. You know,
exactly.
Yeah. I feel that.
Even then, you know, I do appreciate the brevity of this record and just like the complete lack of filler from start to finish.
It's in that real sweet spot of like a great full album listen. Like you this is not one where you have to go and like create a playlist of your 3 favorite songs. Like you can let this one ride and you're not going to get bored at any point. Even there's a musical interlude for the story so far. Yeah. And it's just like a 1.5 minutes, give you a little breather. It's beautiful production, and then it gets into some more shit. It's good.
Yeah.
I highly recommend this one to people who are fans of the Roots, who are a fan of kind of the black kind of poetic prose tradition of a lot of our great thinkers and people in the community like that. I highly recommend this to fans of, did I say Avondale Bowling Club?
Yes.
The Roots. Yeah. People who are big fans of musicality coupled with thought-provoking kind of, I don't want to use conscious because that word is
loaded
so loaded.
Term, yeah.
but you know, introspective, thoughtful.
I even hear a bit of Bus Driver on here, honestly. Like there's definitely, I mean, maybe just because the whole time I was thinking live jazz.
Sure. Well, I mean, they're both from that kind of radical tradition, the synthesis of jazz, the appreciation for, that approach. I get that. That's a good one. Man, people should like this. People should
listen to it.
If you're a fan of Kendrick Lamar's like To Pimp a Butterfly, I would say check this out too. He's dope, man.
Absolutely.
How old is he? He's like 28, 20?
No idea.
All right, man. I don't know how old this person is, but he's doing it. Shout out to McKinley Dixon. Shout out to all our subs, our followers, all of our patrons. We appreciate all of you. Please like, comment, subscribe. Secret House Against
Wagyu.
I need to read more prose.
Oh, yeah. I'll throw out a book recommendation. Read Zadie Smith on Beauty. There you go.
I gotta open my book shit to kind of to bring it back, but yeah, read theory, prose, poetry.